Hey guys, welcome back to Herp Husbandry. Today I actually got sent a thermostat from INKBIRD. So this is the box it's in. So basically they wanted me to review it, so that's what I'm doing here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wire it in, which yes, this thermostat has to be wired in yourself. It doesn't just come with a plug that you can just plug in and then plug your heating device into it and set it. So it's a little more difficult to wire in initially, but stay tuned to the end and we'll see exactly how good of a thermostat it is overall. So basically when I open it, you'll see there's the instruction manual and frequently asked questions. I'm just going to set those aside for now because I don't need them right now. And then there's also the actual microcomputer in a plastic bag, and I take it out. And this is the microcomputer. So if you look here, there's actually the diagram on the top of it, and then this is the front. And then there's these orange clips on either side, which if you look can actually, let me see, they can actually be moved. And I think these are to clamp them onto wherever you're going to be installing it onto. In my case, I'm going to be putting it into a styrofoam incubator, and this incubator's walls are too thick to put these clips on, so I'm actually just going to completely remove the clips, which I can't do until this plate is off. This plate helps protect the contact points that are in here so that they won't short out with 120 volts and cause a fire, etc. So I'm going to go grab a screwdriver and take this off real quick. Okay, so the screw has been removed from the, or at least loosened from the plate here, so I can just take the plate off now. And you can see in there are a bunch of, I'll just put the plate over there, there are a bunch of contact plates in there. So if you look on here, at the back there's actually that diagram on how to put it in there and everything. So if you look, this is the power supply, so that's going to be right here is going to be the power supply. It's going to be just a plug for 110 volts AC, so that's just a household plug. And then the contact plates 3 and 4, which are right here, are going to be for the probe, which actually this thermostat comes with a probe. It's a nice long probe and it works relatively well. You just got to screw in those two little wires into these contact plates here and you're good to go. And then over here is, you can see the heating contact relay switch and all that, and that's right here. And then the cooling is the last one. So basically, you're just going to get the wires for all of these different things and put them into here, and then into their correct contact plates, screw them down tight, and then you will put this plate back onto here to protect the contact plates from, you know, shorting out, starting fires, zapping somebody, whatever. So while this is off, I'm just going to remove these orange tabs because I don't need them for what I'm doing. So now this is just the plain thermostat. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut out a hole in my styrofoam incubator, put it into the incubator, wire it in and everything. It's going to be a bit of a mess, but that's not going to be an issue. I'm just going to wire it into my incubator, and then I will put in Leopard Gecko eggs and incubate them just to see how well it works. I'll also try this thermostat with cricket eggs because I'd like to try with 2 different kinds of eggs just to see how it works with several different kinds of animals. So yeah. Okay, so here I have cut all of my holes into my incubator, the one for the thermostat here that I've already put the thermostat into, and the 2 for the viewing windows, which I've already put the plexiglass into. So right now this thermostat is not secured by anything other than just the fact that the hole is a very tight hole, so it's not wobbling or anything. It's very sturdy, and I'm not going to fasten it in there with any like silicone or anything right now. I may do that later if I find that it's not tight enough, but for now I think that's working just fine, so I'm just going to leave it like that. So I've already popped the thermostat through here and wired in my probe. I'm just going to wire in the rest of the thermostat, and you can judge for yourself how hard it would be probably for you and your skill set, you know, with electronics and all that. So
in here, it looks like a mess right now, but it's I'll explain everything in just a second here. So right now, as you can see, the only thing that's wired in is the probe, which, because we know what the probe is for and already know what it's doing and it's already wired in, I'm just going to take the entire probe out of the incubator here. That way it's not getting in our way. And then if you look below this egg crate here, you can see the heat tape, which is the heating device in this incubator, and then the cord for the heat tape comes up here and comes over to here. And then over here, this cord connects on one end to the negative wire for the cord, which will plug into the wall, and the other end, actually it just came off, but the other end will be connected to the heating relay switch here, and that way, and then the positive from the outlet part of it will go to power the unit, and the other part will go to power the heating, positive heating contact. And basically what will happen with this is this will be plugged into negative, and then this end will be plugged into the relay switch, and when the thermostat gives voltage through this relay switch, it'll complete the circuit and give heat to the give electricity to the heater and give heat to the incubator. So that's how it's going to work here. So I have to do all of my wiring and everything by hand, so it's not super easy, but and it's definitely time consuming, but I will wire everything in, and then I'll show you exactly what it looks like by the time it's wired in. I would wire it in with the camera in hand, but I will need both hands to wire it in, and there's not really a great place to put the camera. So I will wire that in and then show you what it looks like and exactly how I wired it in. Okay, so the thermostat is completely wired in. It took me about 5 minutes from start to finish, but that's mostly because I already know how to wire it, because I've wired it in the past for other incubators. So basically, all that's going on here is negative comes to terminal number 2. I'll turn on my light so you can see a little better. Negative comes to terminal number 2 here. Positive comes to terminal number 1. That will power on the microcomputer. And then I jumpered positive from terminal number 1 over here to, I believe that is terminal number 5. That will go through the relay switch, which will only switch on when the thermostat senses it's time to turn it on, because the temperature at the probe is below the set temperature. And then the other side, this is relay. This is contact number 6. This goes to the positive. That will go to the heat tape, and then the other side of the heat tape comes over to negative, so that completes the circuit and everything. And then, of course, there's my probe. So it's not really that messy in this incubator right now. So although it does require you to do your own wiring, it's not very difficult if you know about electronics. If you're unfamiliar with electronics, this could be very dangerous, actually, because you are dealing with 120 volts AC. That can spark, cause fires, kill people, or at least injure people, and it can definitely damage or destroy your microcomputer here. So you need to be very careful of that, and if you don't know what you're doing, make sure you send several good quality pictures to someone who knows about this this thermostat in particular before plugging it in, because you could create serious damage or injuries if you plug it in and it's actually wired wrong. So you have to be very careful about that, but if you know what you're doing, this could be a very useful thermostat for something like this. Okay, so now that we've wired in the thermostat, I want to explain a bit of a discrepancy that I've noticed between the two different diagrams that they give you on how to wire in this thermostat. So the first one, the one that you're most likely going to be using if you don't know any better, is the one that's actually found in the user's manual. So if you look right here, on this manual, so let's see here, The sensor goes right here. That's the same in both manuals. And then if you look here, this number 1 here does not touch on number 2 because that would result in a short. Goes here, does not touch on this because that would be the same short as if it was touching on number 2. You can see because of the curve up here. And then it goes and connects, you see that like hole there, that is where the heating element will be going. And then it goes here to contact number 6, and there's a relay switch inside of the unit, and then contact number 5 comes out here, and this right here would actually be the hot wire. It would come out here, give hot to the heating element here, and then the heating element would go here. So this would actually, number 1 here would be negative, which if you remember, following the way I wired in the thermostat and the way according to this diagram you're supposed to do it, contact number 1 is supposed to be the hot wire, the line voltage. So of course that is contradicting, and it's actually a reverse polarity, which I haven't tried it with this thermostat here, but microcomputers in general are very sensitive to reverse polarity, and this is probably going to end up frying the microcomputer if you use it the way that they're showing on this manual. And this is actually the same diagram that they show on the top of the unit. So this is the one that you want to follow. It's the diagram on the FAQs sheet. And if you look here, the E right here, the yellow line, that is actually the earth or the ground wire, which I am not using, but if you want to use that, it would be the third prong that goes in the outlet, the one that not all plugs have. It's not necessary, but it is a lot safer to have that. So if you want to have that, if you have whatever resources you need, a cord that has the third prong, outlets that have the third prong, and the ability to wire in the third prong, then that's a great way to wire it in. It's a lot safer, honestly. But otherwise, it's fine too. It's not that much. It's not very unsafe to have. It's not too unsafe to have a just a 2-prong wire, but if you want to have a 3-prong wire, that's a little more safe, and honestly, that's probably a better choice, but it's not necessary. So yeah, if you're going to wire in this thermostat, definitely go with the diagram on the FAQs sheet. That's the one that you want to follow. I've noticed a lot of people on Amazon leave terrible reviews of this product because they've had bad luck with it, but I think part of it, well, okay, so all of them for the most part are saying it was working fine for a while, and then after you know, a couple weeks to a couple months, it failed on them and cooked whatever they were trying to control the temperature for. It just failed in the on position, and that's just the worst possible scenario, at least for leopard gecko or the reptile eggs. If an incubator fails in the on position, it is game over for the eggs unless you find them right away. They're generally a little more cool tolerant than heat tolerant, and best case scenario would be if it was failing, it would just shut off completely. But if it shut onto cooling mode, that wouldn't be a big issue, especially for this this incubator, because it doesn't have a cooling mode, so it would be the same as just turning it off. But to fail in the heating position, especially when using a heater that can easily cook eggs, that's not great at all. So I think probably part of what they're experiencing is something to do with using this diagram. So yeah, I think the company was really stupid to put 2 different diagrams on 2 different sheets, because of course that's going to generate a lot of confusion, especially when they put the diagram that doesn't work as well, at least in my opinion, on both the manual and the actual unit, and then put the one that actually does work on the FAQs sheet. So yeah, I don't think the company was the smartest to do that, but now that you know which sheet to use, it actually works pretty well when you use the correct diagram to wire it in.
Okay, so one of the leopard gecko eggs actually just hatched. So if you look in here, just the setup I have is, that was actually his egg cup, that I just cut out a hole in the side and put some moistened paper towels in there so that he'll have a bit of a humid hide. And then he's in the coconut hide there, and then there's a couple other smaller hides I made out of mealworm containers in there. So I'm just going to open up this, lift up this hide so you can see the baby. So that is the baby leopard gecko that hatched. He was incubated in this incubator that uses this INKBIRD thermostat for the entire course of incubation, except for when he was, except for like slightly on or early on. He was actually laid a little early than expected. So earlier on in the incubation, I hadn't actually had the thing calibrated yet, so I made a mistake and it was getting a little too high, so I moved him for a couple hours into a Husbandry just temporarily, and he was put back into this incubator and stayed there for the rest of the incubation period. So he's just a little nervous, but just going to move him over so I can put the hideout back without crushing him, and then I will show you what happened with the other eggs, or tell you what happened with the other eggs. So far this year I've actually had 3 clutches laid by my female leopard gecko, Lynetta, that I've incubated in this incubator. So the baby gecko that you just saw a minute ago is actually one of the geckos from the oldest clutch, the first one laid. The other egg actually died early on in incubation. 15 days in, it actually developed mold and began to stink and candled yellow, and it was definitely dead. So I disposed of that egg. But this one, the one with the baby gecko that you just saw, was still doing really good and eventually hatched into this baby gecko. I've also had 2 more clutches, one of which one of the eggs died already during incubation. The other one is still doing really well, and I'm guessing will probably hatch in about 10 days here. The other clutch, both of them are doing really well, but it's only been 10 days or so. I think it's been 11 days since they've been laid, so it's kind of early on to make any assessments on if they're going to potentially hatch or die, but so far they are doing really good. So I'm going to show you the crickets also that hatch out of this incubator. They're still pretty small right now, but there are quite a few of them, and it was this incubator I've been extremely pleased with for both leopard geckos and these cricket eggs. So yeah. In here I have the crickets that I hatched in an incubator using this thermostat. So I'm just going to move the lid off, and right now I'm heating it using an Exoterra night glow bulb, 50 watts, and I put that on a rheostat that keeps it kind of dim, and then I also put it on a thermostat to make sure that it stays at the right temperature. And then if you look in here, you can't really see anything until I move the egg carton, but after I do, as you can see, I have quite a few, 1/4-inch crickets in here. These are actually just big enough to where I can feed them to my hatchling leopard gecko that I hatched in this incubator. So I would say I have maybe a couple hundred crickets in there, at least. So all these crickets are just from 2 nights of egg laying. So the incubator definitely did a good job of hatching them. I think I have the most the highest hatch rate I've ever had with. I've tried different incubation methods, ceramic heat emitters, under tank heaters, and so far actually the only one I've had a lot of success with has been this incubator. So I've been really happy with this thermostat. Okay, so overall I think I'm going to give this thermostat a 4 out of 5 star review rating. And here's why. As far as functionality goes, how well it does its job, the cost, all that, I would definitely give it a 5-star rating. Except for the fact that it is a little difficult to wire in, time-consuming and potentially dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. So I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5 star rating, making it's a pretty good thermostat, so long as you know what you're doing with electronics. So if you're in the market looking for a thermostat for your incubator that you're making, or something else where you could easily build the thermostat into part of the project, this is definitely a very good thermostat for that if you know what you're doing with electronics. If you don't know what you're doing with electronics, I would suggest you look elsewhere before resorting to this, just because it could be potentially dangerous. It could start fires, it could kill somebody or injure somebody at least, and it could at the very least short out and break your unit. So you're going to want to be careful with that, but other than that, this is a pretty good thermostat. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Be sure to subscribe, hit the notifications bell, like this video, and don't forget to check out my website at herphusbandry.weebly.com. I'll leave a link to that in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.